Today we're going to compare the GoPro Hero 9 and the DJI Pocket 2 and see which one of these might be the best for you. But first we're going to test them out by going out into Alaska. If you don't know me, my name's Jake and I create content here on YouTube to help solo creators on the go. People like me who are on the go, is creating small commercial projects or stuff for here on YouTube. So I test and review equipment here in Alaska and I do tips and tutorials on how to use that equipment so that you can make smart buying decisions and tell better stories. For all these tests, both of these cameras were just in full auto mode. You can match things up better if you do it in manual stuff, but most people use these in full auto. Before we go any further in this review, I covered a little over 400 miles to try and review these two cameras outside and outdoors, and while I did get a lot of footage, I wasn't able to film a complete review because the weather just didn't cooperate. Now raining and snowing, which means I can't really use the Pocket 2 out here because it's not waterproof, not water sealed. Welcome to wintertime in Alaska. But we will jump in and back and forth between the footage of where I was shooting, the different places that I shot, and stuff in here. Let's break down a few of the tech specs between these two. The GoPro Hero 9 can shoot 20 megapixel stills, will shoot 4K 60 or 5K 30 footage. It's waterproof up to 33 feet. It has Hypersmooth 3.0, which actually does do a really good job. It has a small front built-in screen, which is nice, although it's pretty slow frame rate, refresh rate, so it's very laggy when you look at it. It doesn't respond smoothly. It will shoot up to 240 frames a second in 1080 for slow motion. You can also put data overlays like GPS, speed, stuff like that over the video if you want to. That's very useful if you're doing things outside and you want to show where you are and how fast you're going. It also has built-in functions for time lapses and hyperlapses. The Pocket 2 will shoot 4K up to 60 frames a second. It will shoot 2.7K up to 30 frames a second in HDR mode. It will shoot regular video, HDR video. It will do time lapses. It will do hyperlapses, but it will also do motion lapses where the gimbal will move from left to right or right to left, or allow you to set up to 4 points to move the gimbal and the camera any way or direction you want it to capture a moving motion time lapse. It will also shoot 1080p up to 240 frames a second to give you up to 8 times slow motion. For photos, it does shoot 16 megapixel stills. It will also shoot up to what DJI says is 64 megapixel stills. But the other thing this will do in photos is shoot a super wide field of view in photos. So you get a much larger where it takes 9 panos basically and creates one super wide view photo. And it will also do panoramic photos and stitch the photos together so you get a nice wide panorama, which is actually pretty handy. The Pocket 2 is not waterproof without some sort of other external case. So that is a case of where you would want a GoPro over the Pocket 2, is if you're doing stuff like this, you want something that's going to be able to handle inclement weather. The Hero 9 is going to be better for that. Key points with the GoPro Hero 9 is it is good for stuff like this when you're out running around in just terrible conditions and you want to film stuff, because it does a good job at that. Oh my gosh, my fingers are so cold I can't hardly move. The problem is it's so limited in what it can do, and the touchscreen just absolutely sucks. It's so hard to get it to work. Now for both of these cameras, because they are so small, because they use small sensors, the place where both of them are going to struggle is in low light. But I was surprised about how much better the Pocket 2 looked over the GoPro. Now part of that is it's a sharper image, it has more sharpening, so it looks a little better, but I feel like the high ISO noise performance was actually better, and I feel like this camera did better at picking up just the image in general in a really dark environment. A true A-B comparison there. Got both GoPro, Pocket 2 going at the same time. I feel like the Pocket 2 looks better in the dark. It's hard to tell. One thing about the Pocket 2 though is the stabilization works regardless of your lighting conditions because it's all mechanical stabilization. That's a big plus for the Pocket 2 in my opinion. This is another example of where the Osmo or the Pocket 2 is a little bit better than GoPro is the fact that it can track you, which means you can set a camera up and basically walk around and have it follow you around. It's not perfect, but it does do a good job. It is a nice feature. If you film yourself a lot and you want to make sure that it's getting you in the shot even as you walk around or wander around, the Pocket 2 is the only thing that can do that. When it comes to image quality, both of these offer pretty good image quality for the size sensor that they are, but the Pocket 2 doesn't give you an option to adjust the amount of sharpness that you get straight out of the camera, so you get a really sharp, maybe a slightly over-sharpened image, whereas the GoPro does allow you to adjust sharpness. The other thing that I am not a big fan of in GoPro is the colors are very typically GoPro, really saturated, but when it comes to skin tones and when it comes to filming yourself, this will make your skin look orange unless you use the flat GoPro color profile and grade it in post on your own. Whereas I found with the Pocket 2, you actually get a much more natural looking image straight out of camera, and so it's a little bit nicer in my opinion to be able to film yourself using this camera because you get more natural. Now you also have the option in the Pocket 2 to use a flat color profile and grade it in post if you want. When it comes to audio with these two, both of them offer very similar results straight out of camera where you're just using the built-in microphones. But if you get the creator package with the Pocket 2, you get this little Bluetooth microphone that is fantastic. So this is the onboard audio of the Pocket 2. This is the onboard audio of the GoPro. And right now there's just a tiny bit of a breeze, like maybe 3 or 4 miles an hour. It's not much. Maybe. But I'm kind of curious to see if either one of these has problems with the wind. The cool thing with the Osmo Pocket is, or I keep calling it the Osmo Pocket, it's not the Osmo Pocket, it's the Pocket 2. If you get the full creator kit, you get this little microphone system that when you turn it on, you get much better audio, especially with this little wind fuzzy thing. All right, we're gonna do a wind test with this little microphone fuzzy thing. Let's see how it does. Oh God, that's cold. It's windy. It's also really cold. How's it sound? Oh gosh. almost lost my hat there. Look on this side. How's that? Better? I think it's just too windy. I think it's too windy for this little thing. And then we come to stabilization, because both of these cameras have a stabilization built in, either physically through the gimbal or electronically through the GoPro, and both of them stabilize well in bright light. Now, the difference is that in low light, the Osmo Pocket or the Pocket 2 will stabilize regardless because it's a physical gimbal stabilization, whereas the GoPro will start to struggle because it's based on electronic image stabilization, which is partly based on gyro data and then partly based on the information coming through the camera. It just struggles a lot more in low light to stabilize well. And weirdly, it struggles in cold weather. If the battery's too cold, if the camera's too cold, it just won't stabilize at the highest levels available in Hypersmooth 3.0. Bottom line is, if you want the absolute best stabilization, the Pocket 2 beats the GoPro hands down. It just has the best stabilization out there in any small form factor camera like this. And then we come to the controls. Both of these have touchscreens. The GoPro's just does not work well. I think it's something GoPro could fix with a firmware update, but so far they haven't. It just, the responsiveness of it, the ability to select and move things around, it just doesn't work well. It's really a struggle to get this touchscreen to read properly. Even if I'm not out in snow and wind and rain, it just doesn't respond well to touch, and I'm not sure why that is. It just doesn't. Whereas the touchscreen on this, although it's tiny, it actually does work well, and it responds really well to every input that I've put on it. Another thing you need to consider is both of these have apps for smartphone control. The Pocket 2 actually gives you a ton of options and a ton of ability to be able to adjust settings, to be able to use and control remotely the Pocket 2, which is really handy. If you film yourself, you can set this on a tripod and then use your phone to start and stop recording, to track yourself, to do a lot of different things. You don't have to be standing by it and doing all of that. The GoPro does have an app and it is pretty good, but recently GoPro removed all of the ProTune features, so you can't really control a lot of the more in-depth settings of the image from their app. And then we come to price, because price is always a factor when you're buying a new piece of equipment, and at $350, the Pocket 2 is a great deal, but I would highly recommend you get the creator package because it comes with this little Bluetooth microphone and some of the other extras like the wide angle lens and things like that. It makes this a fantastic deal for creators who want to film themselves, who want to go out and film lots of things, but don't want to have to get a big DSLR camera or take a big camera with you. When it comes to the Hero 9 Black, the price stated by GoPro is $449, so $450, but they run a sale, it's $300, but you have to subscribe to their 1-year subscription, which brings the price to $350. Now, that does give you 2 replacements, which is pretty nice, but if you want to add any of the other things like this, similar to this, where you're going to get a media mod to be able to get the external microphone, be able to put in an external microphone, and it gives you a little bit better quality microphone built onto the camera, then you're going to add another $56 to, depending on if they're running a sale, to $80. And if you want to get a wider angle lens for the GoPro, then you're going to add another $70 to that. So that would bring your total to about $500, and that's if everything's on sale. So price-wise, these two are actually pretty competitive, but I think the best deal for what you get for $500 in the Creator Kit comes with the Pocket 2. In reality, these two cameras are aimed at very different people. Although they both kind of aim at the vlogging market, the GoPro is definitely set more toward people who want to be out in the environment, doing extreme things, extreme sports, but get pretty good, pretty stable footage in decent lighting conditions. Whereas the Pocket 2 is aimed more at people who want to film themselves, but also film other things around them, who want to create content for things like YouTube or Instagram, things like that, because it gives you lots of options for photos, it gives you lots of options for ways to create different types of videos, and it gives you the most stable footage straight out of camera because it's a physically stabilized gimbal, but you are not going to be going out into extreme, harsh environments and conditions. And when you pair it with a Creator Kit, you get a great sounding, great looking camera that is tiny and fits in pretty much any camera bag or any bag, period, where you've got a great little bundle to be able to create with. If you want to learn more about other action cameras or ways to get the most out of your small action camera, Pocket 2 style camera, then click or tap right there. I put together a small playlist. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video.